Approximately an hour's drive from Makassar and located in Maros, South Sulawesi, is a vast and stunning limestone karst landscape region known as Remang, accessible primarily by boat on the Pui River. This 45,000 hectare area of jagged limestone mountains, hidden valleys and dense rainforest is the second largest karst landscape in the world. Since 2001 it has been recognised as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but it doesn't get huge numbers of tourists. With all of this going for it, we decided it was a must-see on our way up to Tana Toraja, and so we spent a couple of days here exploring. Most of the low areas are underwater, and getting around on foot was pretty soggy work as you sunk into the mud and lost your shoes. It didn't take long to destroy our footwear totally, and so we confined ourselves to getting around in boats to explore. There are caves to explore here, some containing prehistoric rock art, estimated to be over 40,000 years old. These handprint works are some of the oldest in the world. In the interests of conservation, the locations are not widely revealed and are difficult to reach anyway. Photography is also difficult due to light conditions, but they are worth the effort to go and see. Kampung Berua village is reached by boat and sits in a hidden valley. Surrounded by massive mountains and dense jungle, it is like stepping back into Jurassic times. But to appreciate the ruggedness, the inaccessibility and the challenges that this landscape presents, you need to see it from above as well as from the ground. The drone took us places you would never see by foot and probably have never been walked upon by a person. The next day, we would be heading further north on our journey to Tana Toraja. Navigating the roads on top of levee banks that cross endless rice paddies, we would be heading west to the coast and then up towards the southern highlands. Although not a great distance as the crow flies, road travel is slow here, and so we decided to make an overnight break along the way. We found a great spot to break our journey. It was remote, random and perched precariously on the edge of a cliff. We had the place to ourselves and were a bit of a curiosity with some of the locals. They obviously don't get many Westerners in these parts. This would be our launch point for the journey up to Tana Toraja. Passing through little villages made colourful by flowers in the gardens and clothes hung out to dry, you get the impression that life is peaceful and wholesome here. It rubbed off on you. But that feeling was about to be shattered as we made our way closer to the coast. Leaving the remoteness behind, we were making our way to the western coast of Sulawesi and then travelling on the state highway heading north. Greenery, serenity and peace were soon replaced by mosques, markets and mayhem. The sounds of birds and rivers replaced by horns and motorcycles. Back to reality. Eventually we left the chaos behind as we made our way up into the high country. And when we stopped for lunch at Batara Rest Area in Bukit Indah, it was like we crossed the threshold back into calm again. Even our driver was more relaxed. There's no guessing. Tana Toraja announces itself boldly as you arrive. It's like crossing a border into another country. And immediately the architecture changes. Traditional houses, known as tongkonan, appear straight away. Mosques give way to Christian churches. The cultural shift is evident and impactful. Makale is the administrative capital of the Regency. The wealth here is obvious with its parks and monuments, and people enjoying recreational activities. Over 85% of the Torajan people are Christian, either Catholic or Protestant, yet they are deeply influenced by a unique ancient animist belief system called Aluk Tudolo, which means Way of the Ancestors. The integration of Christian, Muslim and indigenous beliefs makes Tana Toraja a unique syncretic religious landscape where traditional, elaborate death rites remain central to social life. This is what makes Tana Toraja so special. Rantapau is the bustling capital of North Toraja Regency. It serves as the cultural heart of the Torajan ethnic group. This would be our base for the next few days as we explore this fascinating region. The Toraja people view death not as an end, but as a gradual transition, often keeping deceased relatives at home for months or years, treating them as sleeping. Their culture centres on elaborate, multi-day and costly funerals called Rambu Solo, featuring significant water buffalo sacrifices. An entire industry has grown from this tradition, starting with the live market, where huge numbers of buffalo are sold just for sacrificial rites. Other animals such as pigs, deer and chickens are also sacrificed at lesser ceremonies such as weddings or the blessing of a new house. None of the meat from these sacrifices is wasted. It is distributed amongst the guests and community and consumed in the feast that follows the ceremonies. What is shocking, however, is the exorbitant prices paid for buffaloes depending on their colouring and markings. Up to 50,000 Australian dollars can be paid for a single beast. And depending on the social standing of the deceased, there may be as many as 36 buffaloes sacrificed at a single funeral. For nobles, that number could reach 100. But it's not all about death here at the market. This medical expert is selling potions to get your pecker up. He seems to be getting plenty of attention. Next to the live market is the regular day market. Always fascinating to wander around and an opportunity to pick up some items to offer the hosts at the funeral that we will be attending later that afternoon. We were very fortunate in that our guide is a relative to the family who were conducting a funeral ceremony beginning that day. We attended as his guests and sat in his family's pavilion as they would not be present until later in the proceedings. After being suitably attired, we were escorted into the community compound, where we were welcomed and shown our platform, where we would sit and eat. These funerals are massive social events that can last for days and are essential for the soul to reach the afterlife, but the cost to the family is enormous and often held years after the death because it takes that long to save enough money to pay for everything. In the meantime, the deceased will be mummified and continue to stay in the house with the family as if still alive. They will sit in the living area in freshly washed clothes, offered food and spoken to like a normal person. Young children in the family grow up with the familiarity of death, and it holds no darkness to them. After a brief prayer service, a light meal was served. At this point, it was very early in the overall proceedings, and the atmosphere was quite light and chatty. Once seated, we were brought food and hot drinks, which was served to us like guests of honour. That really took us back. We were expecting to just observe the ceremony, but were actually invited to be part of it. Once the meal was done, the deceased person was taken on one last tour of the district so that the community could pay their respects and to announce that this now marks the start of their funeral. After much toil, effort and commentary, the heavy coffin is eventually loaded onto the back of a small truck. A portrait of the person is fixed at the top so everyone could see who the procession was in honour of, and off they went. After the proceedings, we gave the head of the family a gift of money as a mark of condolence and respect. Although customary, it felt very inadequate compared to how these people let us into their private lives. We weren't locals, and in fact there were only 2 other Westerners present. We were very grateful. The procession often lasts a few hours, so our guide took us on a tour of some of the final resting places of the dead. These are many and varied, and unlike Western cemeteries, the dead remain prominent and accessible. Every few years the body is brought out, cleaned, and given a fresh set of clothes. Family members will have photographs taken of themselves with the deceased in their new outfits, and then the body is returned to its coffin. Money is often left with it to tide it over until the next visit. Some people may be interred in a tongkonan, with the house serving them in the afterlife. The horns of the buffalo sacrificed at their funeral adorn the columns and are a display of the wealth of the former person. Others with little means in their current life have to get by with very little in the next one. It seems all you get is a shelf for your head. Maybe you get the top row if you're lucky. Caves are often used as crypts as well. Here, it's a case of grab a spot where you can. After reading all the labels, we finally found him. Yorick. Alas, they hid you well. An albino buffalo is the most highly prized. This one would fetch far in excess of $50,000. There was one thing that we were struggling to process as we witnessed this whole phenomenon. It was that despite the struggles of daily life in a community that is clearly not affluent, proportionally more effort, focus and money was spent on the afterlife than the present one, and that is a statement about the strength of their beliefs and spiritual commitment. And the fact that we would find this remarkable is probably a reflection on us. As you travel about in Toraja, you often see these niche rocks. You don't pay them much thought, But after seeing the effort required to create each niche, we found a new appreciation of their value. After a few hours, we returned to the compound to watch the committal ceremony. Now everybody connected with the family was present, and it was standing room only. It was such a contrast to Western Christian funerals, not mournful and solemn. It was upbeat and vibrant. What seemed undignified to us was an awakening to them, as they shook the coffin around along the way.
Padahal yo, tanda ini kan mana?
Finally, it was time to raise the coffin to an elevated platform where it would remain until final interment. It was a dangerous task, led by the man with the microphone and performed by the young men of the community. All that shaking would certainly have wakened the dead.
Ya, tunggu nomor. 1, 2, 3. Ya. 1, 2, 3. Oh. Tidak semangat ya. 1, 2, 3. Ya. Bisa tak masukkan kita? 1, 2, 3. Ya. Saya pasangkan dulu utama. Mana siapa? 1, 2, 3. Oh, nah, boleh ya. Bisa berapa? 1, 2, 3. Kailangan kita na to. Kamu ng tiro kita kasulok ya. Bago ang gusto.
The next day would be when the buffalo would be sacrificed. Although we had other plans anyway, we agreed that was something we would rather not witness. For us, it was time to get back to the land of the living. Approximately 3 hours' drive from Makale lies the Olon Valley. The journey itself is an adventure. You cross a mountain range, descend into the next valley, follow a river, climb another mountain range, drop down the other side, and you're there. Directions easy, applying them a little more difficult. But the journey is worth it. The track ran out at this village, on the banks of the Sadang River and surrounded by the grassy mountains. The size of the community here was quite a surprise. So remote, yet obviously benefiting from grazing cattle on the vast grasslands surrounding. There was a church, although completing it doesn't seem to be a priority. A school and a sports field. This was quite a hidden gem. We did not give this place the time it deserves, but left with the feeling that we'd be back someday. We spent our last night in the mountains overlooking Rantapau. This would be our opportunity to experience the inside of a traditional house, or tongkonan. A tongkonan is owned by a large family group or clan, representing their unity and social status, rather than just being a single home. Generally facing north, symbolising the direction from which ancestors are believed to have arrived, they function as the heart of family life, ancestral worship and community meetings. Each family has a pair of buildings. Opposite the home is a smaller version of the same. These are used to store grains. At the bottom of these is a platform. This serves as a place for meetings and social gatherings outside the privacy of the home. Smaller versions are sometimes built as a mausoleum. Here, the residents can be seen waiting to receive visitors. As we ascended to our camp for the night, we gazed at the view and marvelled at the contrasts we had seen that day. And here was our tongkonan. They look big and impressive from the outside, but inside is surprisingly cramped. We pictured families sharing this space for a few years with dead grandpa, while saving for his funeral. Not ideal. Our early morning wake-up call was practicing for tomorrow's performance. We weren't going to miss this sunrise whether we wanted to or not. This visit was only intended as a side trip to another adventure we had just finished in Raja Ampat. An overview and a recce. But we wished it could have been more. We didn't even scratch the surface of Sulawesi. We learnt that each region is unique and offers so much to explore. And in our time there, saw less than 20 other Westerners. It's that authenticity that we chase. We'll be back.